Okay, we need to talk about Wonder Man. It is a Disney Plus show featuring Wonder Man. It's about his story, and it is on Disney Plus right now. Now, I am not going to review the show, but I want to focus in on something they do with the writing that I think is so good. And a lot of superhero shows and movies need to take note because this was just a master class in this element of craft that I think is getting ignored for like the razzle dazzle of an action scene. And here's the thing is that it's the MCU. We know what the MCU is. We know the brand, we know the promise. We know that when the trailer starts, we're getting certain things. And then when we go into the movie, we are getting certain things. Kevin Feige and crew are very good at delivering what was promised. Like in Iron Man, could you imagine if Tony Stark never suited up as Iron Man? That would be ridiculous. They knew we can't do that. This is not some like deep meditation on congressional hearings about the Ten Rings. Like they knew. They totally understood. Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. and Kevin Feige and everyone else involved understood that the audience is going to want to see RDJ in the Iron Man suit. They're going to want to see the genesis of the Iron Man character and everything else. So like that's that aside, like we understand knowing an MCU superhero movie or show, there are just certain elements we're going to get. And Wonder Man delivers, like there's definitely action, but it's different. It's so different. And I personally loved it. It was a real bit of fresh air, especially after Daredevil Born Again, because I honestly think the writing team behind Wonder Man, I don't know if they have, like, I don't know their cross communication. From what I gather, MCU is not big on that. Like, they're just, they're in these pockets of projects, but I don't know. Either way, I would have loved if Daredevil Born Again had taken some of what Wonder Man is doing so well. And I really hope we see this character again because he was played fabulously. I have the cast list in front of me because there's quite a cast, but Yahya Abdul Mateen II plays Wonder Man. Ben Kingsley plays Trevor Slattery. He's back, and I actually really liked the version of Trevor Slattery that came up because in Iron Man 3, he was just so goofy. Like, spoiler alert, when the twist happened about him being Trevor as opposed to the Mandarin, he was just so over the top and goofy. And then in Shang-Chi, he was still like pretty over the top and goofy. But I don't know, Ben Kingsley just brought a whole new dimension to him and it was very nice. I mean, it's Ben Kingsley. He knows how to turn a character and he knows how to like grab those moments and really make a person feel so human no matter how fantastical they are. So he does that very well. But I want to focus on a scene with him and Wonder Man's mother. She is played by Shola Adewusi, and she was fantastic. Again, the whole cast was absolutely fantastic. But this is the writing tool that I really want to pause on and explore because I've been a developmental editor, which means I help develop a story with the author. Like I read their whole manuscript and I don't want to say I pick apart, but I really hone in on things that help like fully like the story is fully realized via these things such as character motivation, character arc, just the external plot, what they want, why they want it, what they're after, what they want to save or destroy, what they want to rescue or imprison. It's like those elements, the world building, the scenes. It's just all of those things that help really develop a story. So that's why I'm a developmental editor. And so when you look at a story like Wonder Man, and the reason I brought up Iron Man is because there is such a thing as that reader expectation. And when you just by the cover, by the back cover copy, by any ads you see, you get an idea of what you're going to get. And it's very important that you, as the writer, fulfill that promise. Like that needs to be a home run. I call it the price of admission. They pay with their time and their money, and you need to make sure that you deliver on the price of admission, that they feel like, yes, I paid for it, but I'm glad I did because it was great. I mean, we've all been in that situation where we watch a movie or a show or read a book and we're like, wow, that sucked. I will never get that time back. And so, like from the top, it's so important you deliver on that as a writer. Now, focusing in on Wonder Man, like I said, it delivers on action. It does it in a more restrained way, but there's still like explosions and everything. But what it really delivered on is a ton of heart and soul. It did not sacrifice character growth, character discovery, and vulnerability. It didn't sacrifice character chemistry. Like the chemistry between Yaya and Ben Kingsley was off the charts. They had so much chemistry. I was shocked. I was shocked to my foundation how well they played off each other. I shouldn't have been because Yaya is like a very good actor. I think he's won 2 Emmy Awards. He was in Watchmen, the Regina King one, and the Chicago 7 thing on Netflix. That I haven't watched yet, but it's on my queue. It's in my queue, and I will watch it. However, they really, really nailed it. And even the chemistry with the other characters, like Simon Williams is the name of like the actual character Yaya plays, and then Simon Williams becomes Wonder Man. But Simon's family, that dynamic was really fun to watch. And it was a dynamic. There were some combustible elements within that family, but it was great because it kept things lively, it kept things fresh. But going back to the heart and soul, they were able to have astoundingly deep and nuanced conversations that felt very real, but they weren't heavy-handed. They didn't take up the entire episode. They didn't like have these long, long monologues or anything. They just really, it was such a balancing act of this is like heart and soul, which causes some action, which causes more heart and soul. Like there was so much organic causation and natural rising of stakes that I was like, wow, the blend of this is awesome. And it's so funny because a lot of writers and I teach a lot of classes and people are always like, is it a character driven story or a plot driven story? And this is a hill I will defend. It has to be both. Like, this is character, this is plot. They need to do this. And they need to do this like infinite figure eight to the point where you don't know what is pushing what. Is it plot pushing character or is it character pushing plot? Like they should be so like untangleable. I don't know what word I'm trying to say, but I mean, you just literally cannot tell anymore. And Wonder Man does this beautifully. The heart and soul, the desires and damage of who Simon Williams is so propels his external action, which then introduces him to all sorts of people, such as Trevor Slattery, played by Ben Kingsley, such as oh my goodness, let me pull up the cast list again because, like I said, it was a great cast, but I don't remember everyone's name. Um, Zlatko Burek for Von Kovac, the director. He was really funny. Josh Gad made a pretty funny but like shocking appearance in this as well. And so, this is what I mean. Like his decisions, which came from his heart and soul, which came from his desires and vulnerabilities, they prompted him to take action, but that action revealed even more of who he was. In that action, there was a lot of truth and a lot of honesty. And I feel like this was distilled, like I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about this scene. I feel like this was perfectly distilled in episode 3 called Pacoima with his mother, again played by Shola Adewusi, Martha Williams, and Ben Kingsley. And they are in the kitchen and she is telling a story about her son Simon. When he was young, he fell off a bicycle and she had to put a little bandage on his knee and kiss it better. And in that moment, he said, "Thank you for loving me, mommy." And, you think that line sounds a little bit saccharine, sounds a little bit like, but first of all, the way it was delivered was so good. Like, this actress delivered it so good. But it wasn't like just a thanks, thanks for loving me, but it was in context of we got to learn more about Simon Williams, which is apparently was a big time loner. He was just happy in his room, happy with his movie posters, happy with his Criterion collection. And his mom was like, he doesn't have friends. He doesn't bring people home. He never really had like a best friend to just hang out with until he brought Trevor to this like family birthday. And she was just saying it was so nice that Trevor was there. And that's what prompted her to tell this story. But anyway, she said, she took him saying, "Thanks for loving me, mommy," as almost like this thing of saying, "Thanks for loving me," in terms of thank you for seeing me. Thank you for loving me for who I am. Thank you for like always holding space for me because like the subtext was he was a person. Simon was and is a person who feels deeply and who doesn't want to be like cut off from people. He loves acting, he loves his craft and his art, and he loves movies. Like the young kid who played him, oh my gosh, I don't have him on the cast list. The young kid who played Wonder Man was really good. And he reminded me of my little brother because I took my little brother to the movies all the time. And that was him, just in his seat. The seat was like way too big. And my brother would just have this huge thing of popcorn and just be like this. He was just enamored with the movies. Like he literally grew up in movie theaters. I am not even joking. My brother actually has his own YouTube channel. It's called The Heroverse, and he actually did a total review of Wonder Man. And so he turned me on to it. He was like, "You better watch this." And I was like, "Okay." And I did, and it was fabulous. I'm so glad I did. But Cameron J. Meadows plays the young Simon. Um, Anyway, so in this MCU TV show where we expect punching and explosions and I don't know, aliens coming down to Earth and everything else, you had this incredibly heartfelt, very emotional moment that I know I am not giving justice to in my summary of it. And again, if I knew how to edit and if I thought that I wouldn't get a copyright strike against me, I would actually insert the scene. But actually, even if I inserted it, it still wouldn't hit as hard as when you watch the first two episodes. Because here's another thing that Destin Daniel Cretton and the writers did that they did so well is that they showed you via action who Simon is. They didn't shove it down your throat. They didn't go heavy-handed with it. They didn't tell you who he was. They showed you. And it's just a masterclass in how you can balance heart and soul versus action. It's how you can balance character growth within action and actually have the action be the impetus for that growth. And so you're a writer, that's why you're watching this. And so what can you take from this and how can you do it yourself? So quite simply, let me get rid of this screen. Quite simply, what you can do is you can honestly just like, if you've already written the book, go back in and look for something that I call springboards. In a story, you will either have springboards that propel your book forward or trampolines where you're just going up and down in place. Like things are happening, but you're not going anywhere. They're not affecting anything. They're not causing change or transformation. And isn't that what stories are? We want to see the rise of somebody. We want to see the fall of somebody. We want to see the redemption or the revenge of somebody. So when you have trampolines, you're like this. It's kind of like the coworker. I had a coworker back when ages ago when I had a day job, and it was like she would talk a mile a minute, but said nothing at the end. Like I would look at people, I'd be like, "What'd she just say? What was the point?" She was a trampoline talker. You want springboards. You want to make sure that what you're putting here, there's something in it that propels the reader to go to the next section, that propels and propels and propels. And this isn't all like punching scene, next punching scene, next punching scene, because first of all, if every scene is a punching scene that's supposed to feel the most life-ending and important, then none of the scenes are life-ending or important because they're all just at the same level now. There's no mixture, there's no difference. And so what you need to do is think, what is within your scenes? Almost like you have a scene and then you have the beating heart of it as the nucleus. You need to examine what that is and make sure, one, is it affecting change? Does it, and I don't mean like huge change. It doesn't have to be huge change, but just change in that it's revelatory, or meaning that it reveals something, or maybe it hides something which prompts the character. They're like, okay, I need to know more about this. And that in and of itself prompts an action. So you want to look at like the heart of it. Like, what is the heart of the scene? If you have a scene where you're just like, I just want them to talk, I just want them to banter so people can see how funny they are, I would say that I want you to go back and see what the heart of that scene actually is. Because if you can't find one, that could mean it needs to be condensed with something else or deleted altogether. But if you have something where you're like, well, it's kind of like the kitchen scene in the Pacoima episode. I really want to show who this character is and show that how he grew up and this rare, rare moment of vulnerability when he says, "Thanks for loving me, mommy," really informs who he is. And that Trevor, as the first person, as the first buddy he has had, that he has brought home to meet the family and to just hang out with at this party, like how huge that is for Trevor to know. Trevor needs to know this because Trevor has something up his sleeve that is revealed later in the episode. So this was actually so pivotal because it told us about who Simon Williams was and is. It showed Simon Williams' family and how kind of tension filled it is, but it also really planted a seed inside of Trevor for then his actions to follow suit because he had a plan until that moment. That moment changed his plan. This is what I call like a perfect scene. The heart of it, the action of it, and then the ramifications of it. It had ripple effects. It changed literally the trajectory of what Trevor was going to do. And in that change, now he's going to face consequences. I won't give it away. If you want to know, like, go to my brother's channel, The Heroverse, because he can tell you all about it. But it's good. And it was just a beautiful balance that actually needed to be there and it prompted other things. I really wanted this for Daredevil, and maybe I'll make another video about it because what I think the Netflix Daredevil did really well is they allowed moments like this between Matt and Father Lanton or Lantern, and they were able to talk about big ideas, big things. They were able to talk about life and death and forgiveness and all sorts of stuff. And it was wonderful because that, I would say, had a great balance of heart and soul versus action and suspense. Wonder Man, I would say, like in I don't even know what phase this is, but in current releases, I would say that this is probably one of the MCU's best and most satisfying TV show releases they've had in a while. I put it up there with WandaVision and Loki. Um, but yeah, it was really good. And you can get a lot from this as a writer, just the way they brilliantly balance who Simon Williams is, who he was, who he will become, and how all of this truly is the thing that creates all of the action. Because while action can be fun to watch, if we don't care about who that action happens to, then it's not a good show. This is a great show, in no small part to its direction. The cinematography is beautiful. The performances are all across the board really good, and it's just a very satisfying show. Watch it. Let me know what you think. Tell me if you cried a little bit during the Pacoima episode, and And yeah, like and subscribe my brother's channel because he's really good at breaking it down, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.